Performance Anxiety, proud member of the excellent Pantheon Podcast Network. I'm joined by Ryan Smith and Pony Hixon-Smith of Ryan and Pony on this episode. They tell me about their paths into music, and Pony's in particular is very unique. She also tells me how she got the nickname Pony. Ryan remembers it well. And Ryan's been writing music for a long time. From his days in the Melismatics to the new album by Ryan and Pony, his music is crazy catchy. But he's also been playing guitar in Soul Asylum since 2016. He talks about getting that gig and how he's dealing with the touring shutdown. Follow Ryan and Pony on social media and pick up their debut album on Pravda Records. You'll be happy you did. Follow us at Performance ANX on Twitter and Instagram. And if you like the podcast, check us out at Ko-fi. That's ko-fi.com/performance anxiety, and consider helping support us so we can keep bringing you great guests. And don't forget to check out all the other great shows on the Pantheon Podcast Network. Now let's saddle up and jump right into this episode with Ryan and Pony on Performance Anxiety.
Hey, this is Ryan.
And Pony.
And you're listening to Performance Anxiety.
Thank you guys for coming on. I've been listening to the album a lot, and it's really cool. I'm really enjoying it. And I kind of want to find out more about how you got to the point of making this album before we actually get into the album. And I know you guys have a really interesting and unique story, especially you, Pony. And I do want to find out a little bit about how you guys got into music in the first place. So did you guys grow up in musical households? Did you start playing at a young age, or was it more something as you got older that interested you?
Pony, you want to go first?
Well, I always wanted to do it. And I would dabble a little bit here and there. Like in elementary school, I took violin for a little bit of time. It was a super expensive instrument, so I didn't get to keep doing it. And then I had friends who would take piano lessons, and then they'd show me what they learned on the piano. And then I played the flute, and I hated the flute. I did not. I just started going two into the thing, and I wanted to play the drums, of course, and everyone wanted to. And then I'm like, well, a saxophone But yeah, I didn't get to, so I definitely didn't keep up the flute.
No, that's why I'm not hearing the flute in Ryan and Pony.
And then my dad always knew I wanted to play guitar ever since I was like 6 or 7. I'd always been asking them to get me one, and then my dad got me a guitar at a garage sale for like $5.
Oh, cool.
When I was 12, so then I played that, and then they saw that I kept doing it, so then they bought my electric guitar at 15. And so I just always did that. They didn't I had to learn from other friends, so I didn't take lessons.
Now, your parents are hearing impaired, so was music a big part of growing up? Was it a big part of your household?
Well, my dad, they're culturally deaf, and that's a better term.
Okay.
My dad always listened to music. He has aphasia, so he can hear sounds, and he like right now he could tell we are talking, but his brain can't process the speech.
Oh, okay.
And he cannot speak. So he was more, like I saw him as more like mute, but he has to communicate through sign language though, ASL. But he always had music going on, and he got me into classic rock. That's really what I was really into. So
that's fantastic. Mm-hmm. That's getting you into good stuff early on then.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
pretty much.
Ryan, how did you get into music?
Well, I discovered music through my dad's record collection. I remember probably being, 3 or something, and sorting through his records.
Nice. And
he had the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, and a bunch of folk records. He was really into folk music. But the Beatles really that's what really caught my eye. I think it was Revolver and then Rubber Soul. Those two records blew my mind.
Those were the first two Beatles records I ever. I did the same thing through my mom's record collection because my dad was more into bluegrass and opera. He had a bunch of Carl Orff and Man of La Mancha soundtracks and things like that. But my mom had Elton John and the Beatles, and Rubber Soul and Revolver were the first two that I grabbed too. So.
Oh yeah, they're the best to start with. It's crazy. It just captivated my imagination. Like yours, sounds like it was just it blew my mind.
Yeah.
And then so I loved music, but I thought I wanted to go into science. I wanted to go into specifically build robots or do something crazy like that.
Oh, cool.
And then it was 6th grade. I didn't play flute like she did, but I played trombone, which actually is on the Ryan and Pony album, believe it or not. And I mean, the trombone is so funny because it doesn't seem like a glamorous instrument to play on any level. But the first time the school band played and I heard a drummer and I was playing and I just couldn't believe that sound was coming from us. And I was grinning so intensely that I couldn't even play. I was just looking around. I'm like, how is nobody freaking out that we're making this sound? Like, this is blowing my mind. And so, the rush I got from that was so intense that was like, I'm putting science aside. Now I'm going to be a musician. And then I was like full throttle into doing anything I could to learn how to play, guitar and, using friends' drum kits to learn how to play their drums. And like, just, I just like I immersed myself in it in whatever way is possible. And that's how I started,
When did you guys start playing out in public in bands, starting your first bands? How old were you? And
Pony, how about you?
19, I think, or 20. Yeah. I had a band called The 100 Flowers, and we played at like some warehouse. We just played warehouses and
cool.
Basement parties. Like prior to that, basement parties. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brian, how about you?
I started playing I picked up a guitar in 7th grade. So whatever age you are there, I don't remember, but,
I gotta go work backwards.
We gotta work backwards.
I got 3 kids in high school, and I can't remember how old you are in 7th grade. That is terrible parenting right there.
Yeah, it's all right. It's 7th grade. Let's say 7th grade. I picked up a guitar and 2 weeks later did my first gig, and it was like a paid gig. We were playing like Metallica, Anthrax, and like thrash metal stuff for some kind of company party at I think it was Pizza Hut or something. But that was my first gig, and I remember we were playing just like, it was with the older kids. I was 7th grade, and it was like one of my friend's older brother. They were seniors in high school, and they could play, so it was like I was hanging on for dear life, but it was really fun. So that was my first gig. And then I had a high school band that played like 7th Street Entry and the clubs in town. So that would have been probably starting at age 16-ish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. And now, Pony, I have a question specifically for you, and feel free to answer it or tell me move on.
Okay.
How did you get the name Pony? Because that's not your given name.
Right. I played bass for this singer-songwriter named Mark Mallman.
Okay.
And there's already another cat in the music scene, and people kept getting me confused with the other cat, and I was like, I'm getting tired of it. And I thought I was working on songwriting, and I thought I was going to put on an album. I'm like, okay, I don't want to be confused. Like, what's a good name for me? And on tour, I'd walk around, I'd have a pony backpack on my back.
Okay.
And it was Mallman and Peter, and they're like, how about Pony? And then Mallman started to like make, I don't know if you've ever seen Mark Mallman, but he'll like go off in tangents in the middle of a song on stage, and I'm like, play honey. And then he started like, Pony, and he just shout my name. He start like doing this like horse kind of, more like a bull, like kind of, drawing its foot.
Okay.
And then he started making other like jokes, like Pony doesn't want any indie rock dudes. There are 3 things that Pony loves, and he would just go on, and then it stuck. It was like, okay, I'm Pony now.
Wow.
People just come up to me, and that's what they call me.
Because they've seen you at the shows, and if that's how he's introducing you, that's what they know you as.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, because we all have our perspectives of this, it's funny. I actually remember the first time that she was called Pony, because I was standing right behind. It was we were walking upstairs to rehearsal space. I was also playing with Mark Mallman, and she was wearing that backpack. Mark was standing in front of me, and he just turned around and he goes, "Let's call her Pony." So because we saw her backpack. So that was like, and that was the first I'd ever heard that nickname. So yeah, I mean, I can pinpoint it to the exact moment. I don't know when it was, but it was,
Yeah.
I can see the.
I remember that now too. Like I remember like the look, and it was like that moment of like, yeah, but it didn't solidify for me till on stage.
Okay, and it's a very unique name though. It's as soon as I saw the album come up and Ryan and Pony, yeah.
Yeah, I wish it was my real name. I want to change my name to that. My mom might get upset, but I really want to.
I won't tell her. But,
okay.
So how did now? Oh, hi.
It's a cat. Yeah, we got lots of animals here. You might see some more, but that's okay.
No problem. You won't see my dog running around because my daughter has him chained up in her room right now.
Oh yeah.
So otherwise he might go nuts.
Yeah.
But all right. So at what point did you guys decide that music was what you guys were going to do for a living? Because Ryan, you said, I mean, was it in that middle school band and Pony? When was it for you?
I think for me it was then. It's weird because it's such a bad idea, in a lot of ways to decide I'm going to play music for a living. Yeah. But I mean, I really wanted to commit to it. I didn't want to have anything to fall back on. So I didn't want to study to be an accountant or something. I wanted to just I wanted to be like, I must do this
right.
For this to work. And so really I kind of knew at that moment that that's what I was going to do. And I barely ever had moments where I go back and rethink, maybe I should do something else. I think I've been pretty happy with doing it. And, and it's very luckily worked, so in that regard, yeah, I've known since then. I haven't really looked back since. So
that's cool. And Pony, was it something that you knew early on too, or was it after hitting the stage or something?
I always knew I wanted to do music. Oddly enough, maybe I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but in an LSD trip when I was 14, I felt like something told me to do that. I don't believe in that, but at that time, something just told me you need to do this. I'm not proud of that. Don't try LSD. So really, it became I'm going to do this as a living when I married Brian, basically. And I joined the Melismatics, and he's like, you can do it. I don't do it as a full 100% way to make my living because I just never thought, I don't feel like teaching or tried it. But I like to do other things too. And that helps inspire my songwriting.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Were you guys always writing your own original music ever since the beginning, or is that something that kind of grew as your bands changed? Because you guys met with Mark Mallman, right? And then,
well, yeah, we met with Mark Mallman, but Melismatics had existed prior to that with a different lineup. So that was that band has been around forever. And yeah, I know for me, songwriting actually came hand in hand with learning how to play. The first steps of learning how to play guitar, I was trying to write stuff with it. It was the whole point of playing guitar was to write songs. So that was to me, that's what it was all about. So I started writing immediately upon figuring out how to move my fingers around on an instrument.
Oh, so that's awesome. Pony, what about you? And am I correct in assuming that Ryan and Pony, you guys are kind of it's a songwriting collaboration between the two of you, right?
It's it's always a collaboration on whatever level, a lot of songs that made this record, due to timing and stuff, I'd heavily written, and then we together put, her personality and it all comes together. It's hard to really quantify, it's just there's a personality that comes from just working on anything together, So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah, I'll take it. That'll work for me. And I've watched some videos of Melismatics and all, and Pony, you're really animated on stage. You're you have a lot of energy. And is that something that kind of did it grow out of growing up in a house with your parents being culturally deaf, or is it just something else?
Yes, American Sign Language is incredibly expressive, and then like my dad and I would always watch things that were intense, like we were into WWF wrestling, and we watched that. And I think some of it has to do with some of that, and I just get incredibly energized when I'm on stage. If something happens where I'm just like, I just and then I just have to get it, out, and sometimes some things are spontaneous, some aren't, and just going with how the moment feels. But it has a lot to do, I think, with my upbringing.
It comes through in the vocal performances too, because your vocal performances are very expressive, and that's one of the things I absolutely loved about the Ryan and Pony album. It was your vocals. I think they were just very animated. It's a lot of emotion coming through in the vocals without even seeing you perform them.
Yeah.
So, the Melismatics were actually a band before you guys joined them?
Well, the Melismatics were a band that I started probably I think I was maybe just right out of high school.
Okay.
And then we just had a different lineup. So we had another guitar player before Pony joined. So I met her through Mark Mullman. I think I saw her play and I was like, I'm going to put her out, I'm going to steal her into this band. And then, things worked out. I don't even honestly remember exactly what happened, but somehow we lost a guitar player and gained a guitar player. So it all kind of worked out.
What's behind the name Melismatics?
Melismatics, literally, it was a vocab word on a test. The story basically goes like I had a gig. I had the first gig, didn't have a band name, and it was super new. That's how I always fly by the seat of my pants. Let's do this. Book the show before we got the band, and then we needed, the venue said, well, we needed to put a name in because it's. We got put in the paper. What's the name of the band? Right. And I just took a pencil and the melismatic was the vocab word, which means multiple notes on a single lyrical syllable. So if you're singing an ah and you sing, a bunch of notes on an ah, that's a melisma. So I just said, well, the Melismatics, and I had every intention of changing that band name, and then we never changed it. It just stuck. So. Yeah.
It's worked out because you guys have really carved out a name for yourself.
It worked.
Literally and figuratively, I guess.
Literally and figuratively. I mean, it's one of those things where it's nobody else thought to name their band that, which is cool. But it's also really hard to pronounce because we'd be on tour and people would be like, what? They'd butcher the name of the band. People would go Melismatics, or they'd spell it wrong. It was straight out of Spinal Tap.
And bands that we would friend on the road kind of make fun of us a little bit too. You should have picked an easier name.
Well, yeah, it's a hard name to pronounce, hard name to remember. If you, but it still worked because of the fact that nobody else would be stupid enough to name their band that.
But it's musical too. It's a musical term.
It is.
So that works out really awesome. And you guys have put out 7 studio albums?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You end up playing Lollapalooza.
Yeah.
And I have a question about that. You guys, a lot of your music has ended up on TV. You guys you won Last Band Standing. How does all that work? I mean, first of all, I guess we can hit the songs ending up on TV. How do you write a song? You think it's good? How does it get on a TV show?
Don't know me, take a chance with the unknown. Though it's always left unsaid, I can read the overtones. We're staring at the sun, and when the day is done, we have just begun. I've set my sights to thrill, my heart won't stand still, going for a kill.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of mysterious nice, I think, on our end too. I mean, every album we put out has been with some label and some publisher that does that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I think it's just like, it's partial, you know, there's probably a little luck in that, and the fact that like it resonates with somebody who's doing programming on a show, and then it seems like it kind of opens a floodgate, because then once like somebody uses it, then it was like, there was a time, I think our second to last album was called Mania, and I feel like there was a time where like MTV like was using it like every day on something, you know.
Wow.
And it was just like, so obviously they, you know, somebody there, I don't know how it works, you know, but somebody was like responding to it well and thought it was like, it fit the moment. So
yeah, you know, good quality songwriting and somebody in the right spot liking it. So that's good. Now, how did Last Band Standing, can you kind of explain that a little bit? Because that was a few years ago. I kind of remember that, but you got to refresh my memory on that one.
Right. What it was is that it was like a worldwide contest that started with, I can't even remember, like a ridiculous amount of bands, like from around the, you know, anywhere in the world,
right,
submitting music to get to some other level. I think there were like, I don't remember how many levels, to be totally honest, like 3 or 4 levels of, you know, like of online voting and all this kind of jazz. Okay. And then it ended up with a show in Chicago at the Double Door. And that was like a really intense moment. So I think it was like the top 5 bands that were like still in the running.
Oh, wow. Played
a show at the Double Door in Chicago. And it was really intense and really kind of fun and, you know, scary at the time, you know, and it went well. I think we played well. And I remember some of the judges were like coming up to us after saying like, you know, they were like, we want to make sure, you know, nothing happens. You guys, you got to win this because, you know,
nice.
You got to make sure nothing goes wrong. So I remember, I forget the guy's name, singer-songwriter from Chicago, Michael McDonald, or I can't remember his name, but I'm going to butcher it. But I remember specifically, he was like making sure he didn't want to leave until he knew we won, because he was like, he felt that was the way to go. So for whatever reason, they were cool bands though. We made some friends there there was a band from Mexico, and there was a couple other countries represented there, and it was cool. It was really fun. You know, we had a blast. I remember we really
it was fun.
Had a good time, and we played our hearts out. We just like we played like a 20-minute set, and we were just drenched in sweat, and like we could have walked off stage dead at that. Like, we left it all on the stage. You know,
that's awesome.
The blood in the guts, like.
I would have loved it. All right, do you have any video of that? Is there any recordings of
I
that?
don't think so.
I wish.
Yeah, I wish. Like, I can't believe that. It seems so obvious in hindsight. Why did we not video that? But,
because,
you know.
Seeing the live clips that I did see, if you guys did, you know, put all that effort into it, I want to see what Pony did on stage at that point, because she's so energetic on stage anyway. Yeah. I would have, you know, concentrating it all into a 20-minute do or die set must have been an incredible show. I want to make sure I get this right, because I've seen a lot of clips on YouTube, and you're not Salvatore.
No.
Okay. So you don't work at IHOP anymore?
No.
Okay, so that gig's gone. All right, so I've noticed a running theme with a lot of stuff that in my research, and it all tends to do with coffee and pancake or pancakes. So,
yeah.
You guys, is that your pre-show meal of choice, or?
Well, coffee is like our fuel. You know, coffee was like, oh my God, we drink coffee like, and I still do. She doesn't drink it so much anymore because of like other health reasons, but
yeah, my wife's the same.
Coffee was always like a critical of the formula, and I think the pancakes was like, because we got, you know, we spent so much time on the road, and it was like the stops would be like, we stop at IHOP. And actually Salvatore was a good friend of ours that we met in Indianapolis, Indiana. And he literally worked at an IHOP. And
he stood out.
Yeah, and he stood out, and we kind of befriended him. So every time we go to that IHOP, we'd be like, it's Salvatore.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
So we had, and everywhere, you know, we kind of like did so much of that road stuff that we just got used to certain restaurants, and it was just, you know, it's comfort food on the road. It's like pancakes, and, you know,
yeah, and you know,
yeah.
Yeah, and if you're on the road and you got to play that night, you don't want to eat something you're not sure how.
Yeah, right. How's that going to go over?
It's a big deal.
Exactly. Yeah. So how's Salvatore doing these days?
Well, sadly,
he actually died.
he did die.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Yeah.
I may have to
sadly,
edit
yeah.
that part out.
Like you guys
Yeah.
hit by a car or something.
They don't know. It's like an unsolved mystery.
Really
It's
weird.
very weird. Yeah.
Wow. This just
Yeah.
went from awesome show to unsolved mystery.
I know.
Wow.
It's really sad,
I'm
but
sorry.
yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
No.
All right, you guys just threw me off my game here a little bit. So, all right.
Sorry.
Because I was going to say you might, after watching that video, you might want to see a doctor about those 2-hour-long bathroom trips.
Yeah, well, that was part of the funny thing. It was like we had to make it long enough where they could have this meeting and stuff.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, why not extend it to like hours?
Now, I thought it was great. I loved it. They cracked me. As soon as I saw 2 hours later and you come back, I'm like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But see, and that's one of the things that I loved about watching these clips is that you can see the band. You guys all have a great sense of humor. So I love seeing that, and it comes across in the shows and in the little video clips, like the one I saw about the deodorant, and
Oh yeah.
that resonates with me. That makes me want to come see a show. So hopefully things will open up and we actually get to see some shows soon.
I know. Yeah. We'll see about that. Right.
Yeah. How did you end up playing in Soul Asylum? How did that whole connection start off?
It's a long time coming, in a sense of like, we've known those guys, we've known them for a long time. We noticed there was this period of time where they started ramping up. Like they asked us to open for them numerous times. I think Dave sat in with us like at First Avenue. Like he flew out he was living in New Orleans at the time.
Oh, okay.
And he flew to sing one song with us. And we're like, well, that's interesting.
Wow.
It was at First Avenue and he just sang one song with us.
For replacements.
Right.
You.
Yep.
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and for a show at First Avenue, which we had guest singers for everything, but it was cool. Like it was like, oh, Dave flew out for that, and Michael sat in on that show, and I think maybe one other one too. And we just noticed they were doing a lot of activities with us, and then it kind of was mysterious from there. It turned into emails saying, "Can you learn these songs? Can you show up on this date?" And then it was like the first, I think there were like 25 songs or something like that. And then basically showed up, ran it down, and it was like playing a show. And they were like, okay, can you come back tomorrow? Ran the show again. And they said, can you go to Texas and Philadelphia this weekend? And I was like, sure. And then it was from there, like, then they said, can you go on tour? And then they were like, you're in the band.
Wow.
And
Were you aware of them trying anybody else out, or was it just they liked you and they wanted to just make sure you were the guy?
They definitely tried out other people, but I think they kind of knew on some level that it could potentially be a fit. I think had their feelers out and they were probably looking at a bunch of options. And I know they did audition like other people at that time. It wasn't like I was the only one. It just was, but
So it was kind of like Last Band Standing. We're like, we want this to work out for you. We just got to make sure.
Except no one ever explains anything.
Yeah.
Like, so it was very mysterious. Like I don't know. I was like just not telling anybody anything because I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, I literally don't know what's going on or why any of this is happening or where it's going. So
That's pretty wild. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. All right, I've got a little Soul Asylum story, and it has nothing to do with me, but it has to do with another guest I had on the show, I guess about a year ago. Her name's Mikal Tauber.
Okay.
And she's a singer, pop singer, and all. She got her first record deal when she was like 17 years old, and it's a really cool episode. But she was on the road most of her senior year in high school, and I trying to remember how. I think Dave Perner may have produced her her debut album, so she asked him to prom, and he went with her. So,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Ask him about that.
Ask him. Yeah, her name is Mikal Tauber. Michal Towber.
So she's from Minneapolis, obviously.
No, she's from New York City.
Okay. Wow.
But like I said, I think he produced her demos or her debut album or something.
So he was out of high school.
Oh yeah, he was way out of high school. He was. Oh. This was like Gravediggers Union had already had it was either out or had already was like it was history. So he was already a name, in music.
Wow.
And she's like, yeah, can you, will you go to prom with me? And he was like, sure. She showed me the prom pictures. It's hilarious.
That's crazy.
You got to ask me about that.
Yeah.
So that's my Soul Asylum connection. And my daughter just showed up with a shark hat that she's going to put on.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Nice.
Man, that's pretty awesome.
Hi. That's a nice shark hat.
Yeah, this is pretty sweet.
Cool.
All right, well, I'm going to put it aside here. Okay, so and you've been with Soul Asylum now for 4 years?
About 4 years. Yeah, it was 2016. Yeah.
Okay. Has working and playing with those guys so often, has it influenced your songwriting at all?
I think there's always a little bit of a simpatico with like the kind of, the vibe and the way that we play. Because I remember like when the Melismatics were kind of a new band, I remember the guys that like the stage manager at First Avenue said like, you guys remind me of Soul Asylum when they were a new band. Like that's what, So I don't know if it's influenced. It probably has in some way, but but there's always kind of been a little bit of a thing where I feel like, I don't know, it's not the same by any means, but right. There's like, but I think we probably have some of the same influences and with Dave, I feel like we clicked like right away. It was kind of like, felt like we've been playing together forever. And so it was like, it just right away didn't feel like it was, I got to get to know you. It's kind of like, oh, we kind of just.
Yeah. You got that chemistry automatically.
Yeah. Like right away. It was just weird. Like, so yeah, it probably has in a subconscious way. I definitely don't think about it and go like, I'm going to write something more like Soul Asylum now, and right. Everything on the Ryan and Pony album is pre Soul Asylum, like song wise, for the most part. A lot of those songs were like, I think I had started writing like 75 songs for this album before even Soul Asylum had even contacted me. So, wow. And they weren't all recorded, but they were like demos that had been started and like,
okay.
So a lot of that stuff, it's like, if anything is like, sounds influenced in that way, it's not, nothing on this album was in any way. So
that's really crazy. Because the reason I asked is because as I was listening to it, every time Trouble in Mind came up,
oh yeah,
that definitely sounds like it's got a little bit of a Soul Asylum feel to it.
And that was the newest song. That was probably the latest one.
Okay.
That was like, so that one maybe did actually have some kind of subconscious rub off from like the whole thing. Okay. So yeah, good ear on that. Yeah. That's like, rough, yeah.
For a non-musician. So what brought the Ryan and Pony project together? How did you guys start it? And you said it, you started writing years ago. So what brought it together? What made you actually start to focus on it?
Well, it was 2012, right, when we made our last Melismatics album. And I think the other guys in the band, were getting, and maybe we were all getting a little burnout. We spent a lot of time on the road, and it was like, it was just like relentless, and we were tired and kind of burnt out. But I know I didn't want to stop at the time, but I think the other guys did. I don't think Pony wanted to stop either. And the original idea was like, let's stop, take a break, and start a new band. And I think we were even kicking around some names. Like we had the Cosmic Shakes was a name. And we were on the label Pravda Records, which this album's coming out on. And they said, why would you like change your band name that has nothing to do with the Melismatics? That doesn't make any sense. They said, you should call your band Ryan and Pony. And I was at first, my first reaction was like, that's weird, But then I thought about it and I was like, well, Matt and Kim and Peter, Bjorn and John, and there's there's all these bands. I'm like, oh, that actually makes sense. And then we have our identity from what we're doing before in some weird way. And we always had this thing where I just on stage would always wear stripes and she would always wear polka dots. And it was like,
oh, really? Okay.
We kind of had this thing going. We're like, oh, we can accentuate those things. Like the things that we did before can now become like fully realized in this.
Right.
And I think the original idea was going to be we were going to get a bunch of guest singers and on the album of different people, because we had been, Melismatics for a long time, and we had worked with cool musicians that we really like John Auer was a friend. I saw Ken Stringfellow was on the show.
Yes.
People like them, we were just trying to the idea was going to be, we're going to make an album with us and then involve all these people that we've known over the years, to guest on it. But then the guesting thing it just didn't happen. And it got the album was coming together so well without adding other people into it that it was it just didn't seem like there was room for adding these guest appearances on everything. So it was so then it was just well, these songs are done. This is the album, Yeah. So.
And did you guys do all the, play all the instruments on the album?
Yeah.
Wow.
Usually, yeah, totally. Well, with Peter Anderson played drums. Yeah.
Okay.
So Peter Anderson is a drummer from, he's in the Ocean Blue, another Minneapolis band called Run Westy Run. They've been around for 1 million years. And at any rate, so usually I would just build up a demo. So when I start a song, play all the instruments and then have Pony come in, and then we'd send that to Peter. Peter would put his part on there. So I usually give Peter a drum track that I played to give him an idea of what I was thinking. And then he's awesome. So he always just takes it to another level and that's how we did it,
Okay. All right. So I got to tell you this before I forget, because my memory's just shot. 3 teenage kids in the house. My memory's gone. Yeah. But I'm friends with Ken Stringfellow on Facebook, and had been for a while, because when I first started getting into Facebook, I started following bands and the people in those bands that I liked, because a lot of the bands I liked were inactive. So I'd follow Jordan Zederosny, Ken Stringfellow, so just to see what they were doing, because I figured even if they're bands that I loved weren't active, maybe they were in a new project that I just wasn't aware of yet. So
we got a dog hawking up over here. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. That is staying in. I'm gonna have to do a lot of editing, but that's staying in.
That's staying in. Yeah.
So I live in Winchester, Virginia, and this was probably February of this year, maybe really early March. I just get a direct message from Ken Stringfellow on Facebook. That's weird. He does a lot of work with Jordan from Blink of the Star, and I'm good friends with Jordan. So I figured, okay, maybe Jordan had just come out with a single, or maybe he's just telling me about that. Maybe it's just one of those blast messages. But it says, hey, Mark, I'm playing a show in Winchester. I'd love for you to come out. Okay, it's kind of weird. But the venue's literally 5 minutes from my house. So I type in, I'll be there. So he goes, great. Do you know anybody who has keyboards? I think I might. What are you looking for? And he tells me okay, it needs to be something like this with weighted keys. And I'm like, let me check with my kid's guitar teacher and see if he's got it. And I threw it out, and he's like, yeah, I've got that. I said, okay, Ken Stringfellow from the Posies wants to borrow it when he's in town for the show. Let me just hook you guys together so you can kind of work this out, and I don't have to be the middleman anymore. So they worked it out. Ken came the day of the show, went over to my kid's guitar teacher's place, picked up the keyboards, and played the whole show with it. We met up after the show, or before the show, and he's like, hey, man, thanks for the keyboards. I really appreciate it. I would have been kind of stuck without it. Hey, my pleasure. It's just kind of really weird, but I'm glad I could help out. So, and I brought my camera. I was a photographer for ages, and got some shots of him during the show, and haven't really spoken to him since. So he's not keeping up the direct messages anymore.
Yeah, was that a Ken solo show or was it a Posey show?
It was a solo show. It was really cool because he was touring the Touched album that came out, that was released on September 11th, 2001.
Oh, wow.
That was the release date. So he toured it as soon as he was able to, which was like 2 weeks after September 11th. And it was Mercury Lounge was the first stop on that tour in New York. And he got a message from them saying that it's the 25th anniversary of Mercury Lounge, and they wanted to revisit their favorite shows of the past 25 years, and his was one of them. So, So he's like, okay. He's like, you know what? I'll just do the Touched album. And he started at the Mercury Lounge in New York, and he just started, he's like, you know what? I want to just do a whole tour like this. And it was just him on keyboards and the solo guitar. And he played the entire Touched album, and then he played a couple other songs from some of his other solo stuff. He had an opening act, another solo singer, Karen Allen. She came up and sang a couple songs with him for the encore, and that was it. But there was it was in a very small venue, like 35 people. It was like a private Ken Stringfellow show. It was amazing.
Wow.
So that's one of the reasons why I love doing this show. I get connected with some awesome people like you guys, Ken Stringfellow, McCall, who knows Dave Perner. Weird shit with this show. It's great. But this show is not about me. It is about you guys. So let's get back to the Ryan and Pony album. Actually, one of the first things that struck me was the album art, because my youngest daughter is a huge anime fan. And you've got this really cool anime versions of you guys for the cover art. Is that something that you guys are into, or was it just spur of the moment? It sounds good, or?
It kind of all came together in this weird magical way, because it was like, so through Soul Asylum, I met this artist her name is Sarah Miscavige, and she does all of that art. She did some for Soul Asylum as well.
Okay.
And when it came time to make the first video, I always wanted, and I think we probably both always kind of had this idea of doing animation, like versions of ourselves. And I was like, well, here's the person to do this. Like, we now have this is, she's the bomb. She can do this. And so we made this video for a song called Fast As I Can, which was, it's like a single that's from the record.
Yeah.
She did that. And because of the way the video looked, she was like, Pony's hair's got to be blue. So then it was like, okay, so now Pony needs blue hair. So she kind of worked out
blue wig.
I saw the promo picture.
Yeah.
I love that wig. I need to get two. I'm ordering another one. I'm hoping it comes. We'll be ready by the time I perform, because they don't last.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they kind of fall apart.
Something about blue hair.
And then the rest of the artwork kind of came into it was obvious that she should be the one to do the artwork, because and it all really just started tying together.
Yeah.
Through that. I've always admired anime, but I don't follow it, that much. And we got some friends that are really anime. This band Radkey, they're friends of ours from they're a punk band, awesome band, but they're really major fans of anime. They write songs about it and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But so I've never gotten into it that much, but I always thought it was cool. And I've always really just liked that whole look of it. And then weirdly, the title Moshi Moshi was already set.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how it's been around for a long time. And it was like, whoa, there's anime and Moshi Moshi. And
it was actually going to be a Melismatics title.
Originally, yeah.
It got voted out.
It got voted out because our band name was so hard to pronounce.
And I really wanted it. Really wanted it. Now we're like, we can now.
That is, that's a good point, though. When your band name is difficult, probably using Japanese is not.
It's just like having a bunch of stuff people can't pronounce and don't know what it means.
You probably could have done it in just kanji, and it would have been. Yeah. The Melismatics. I don't know how you would do the Melismatics in kanji, but that would be pretty crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Fast As I Can, and I love that song. That is so damn catchy. That is such a great song.
You like it too. Brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, love spreads it fits. You pass it on to all the others. Every little thing, every little thing, every little thing you do, it matters. Every little thing, all the love you bring, every little thing you do, it matters. Bury
a pretty sweet like metal screech. I don't know how to pronounce that, but like that roaring vocal you do on Thunder Love and all,
Oh yeah,
that's pretty damn cool.
Thanks.
Dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yes, that's perfect.
Dinosaur scream.
Yeah, the dinosaur scream. I think I did on the "I Would Die for You," the Prince version at 2. Yeah, it was that went back to the Melismatics. It was a thing I just started doing but yeah, it's on. It makes its way on this record a few times. So
it does. My favorite song on the album though is "First Night," because it's like this really cool slinky song, and then it sounds like Caius comes in, does this guitar solo, and then leaves, and then the song goes back to being slinky again. It's freaking awesome.
Kind of weirdly the first song for this record, because and it was like literally about rebirth. And I mean, we had just had we literally had our child who's now 6. And we were starting a new band, and we were like, everything was new, and that song was kind of about rebirth, and it was the first song that was like, this is for this new record. So it's funny that I can see the Caius thing, like walking in and just like walking right back out.
Yeah, like Josh Homme coming in and just crashing out a solo and then see you.
Yeah.
So how did you guys pick the Prince cover that you did? You did "I Would Die for You."
Well, I think if I remember right, it was literally when Prince had just died, and it was like. I would do these acoustic gigs, and I feel like I started covering it because I was like, Prince just died. That song has like all these new levels of meaning, and it's such a great song. I always loved that one, and Pony loved it. I think we were just sitting around one day, and we decided, well, let's try this, and it was like, well, let's try this as Joy Division. Like kind of like, how would Joy Division play this song?
Oh, awesome!
Because what's the point of doing a cover, right? When you just do it exactly like the original.
Thank you.
You know?
Yes.
So. And then it became a live staple. We would always end the show with that song. Well, always. I mean, it was like we didn't play a ton of shows because it was a new project. But the shows we did play, our first show was at First Avenue. It's like,
wow.
Yeah. In fact, the video that came out yesterday for Cinematic, which is a song on the new record, that video was shot at our first gig. That was our first gig.
Wow.
So that was like, so the video's been, the footage had been around for a little while, but, from the beginning of doing this basically. So, but yeah, that's, I totally forgot what the question was.
But, how did you pick? How did you pick that?
The Prince song. Yeah. So we just kind of like, we were thinking of, I think like the song Ceremony by, it's New Order, the last Joy Division song, the first New Order song, goes do 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 do. So we were like starting that and just kind of going from there, and we just played it like we thought Joy Division would play the song.
Oh, that's awesome.
For fun, That's
awesome. So when you said Joy Division and New Order, I'm like, oh yeah. Because those are two bands I didn't like when I was a teenager. Because I was a big metalhead, and then I graduated in 91, so I hit college right as grunge was hitting, so I got into that. And New Order specifically was not cool.
Well, yeah, right. If you're into like metal and grunge and punk and stuff, like New Order, unless you're like a Joy Division fan first, was like right.
Exactly. So I've only recently been getting into that, and it's just amazing stuff. I'm just absolutely blown away and kind of pissed off that I missed it. Back when it was actually happening.
Sure.
Anyway, Ryan, I mentioned you have a pretty awesome death metal growl, but Pony, you've got a really awesome punk snarl when you sing too. You guys have just such great energy together. The album it's a real happy sounding, fun album. I love it. Are you guys? I know there's no touring now or anything like that. What are you guys doing as far as promoting the album besides coming on this podcast? And
well, like we're doing this is great. Yeah, I mean, this is great. We've got a bunch of these kind of like interviews coming up, and we're making we've got music videos, and like there's like you mentioned that song First Night, which is first song on the side 2 of the vinyl. That's got a video that we shot a long time ago that will come out. And so like really this band, like our previous bands have been so visually oriented. Like everything has been through like the live show is a huge part of it, but so were music videos and things. So that's the world we now live in, is everything is like videos and that's how we'll probably mostly be promoting it. I mean, everything is just online. Someday shows will come back, but we don't know, who we thought that they would have been back by now. So things kept getting like, we noticed like the calendars, like the venues kept pushing, like, well, we're going to reschedule, we're going to reschedule. And then after like the 5th rescheduling, it's just like, let's just stop this, and just say, tack another one at the end of the year, 2021 and keep the date, or just look to another time. So
and who knows what venues are going to be open.
Who can survive this? Like who will still be standing
exactly
at the end of this?
I actually read a really interesting article just today about how New York is basically dead, and it will not it may not recover because a lot of people are working virtually. They don't actually need to go into the city anymore, which is just having a ripple effect across restaurants. It'll be live music venues, but a lot of what in the article they call second tier cities, I would imagine like they're talking like maybe like a Kansas City or something, or those places are going to reap the benefits of things like restaurants opening because they don't have the huge tax burden and of a New York City or a Chicago. And then that's where I think live venues are going to start bubbling up again and reopening, and you're going to get a lot more artists playing, a lot wider variety of artists playing. So now, when you guys do play live, is it just going to be the two of you, or are you just going to have to put a band together?
Well, we have Peter. We got to let our dog out. She's making some crazy sounds. So
you want to pause for a second?
Edit this out.
Oh yeah.
Just let this happen.
Crickets.
All right.
There we go.
Okay. See, this is the kind of stuff I love, though.
So when the record comes out, live shows, if and when they commence, we have Peter Anderson on drums. So we play as a 3-piece.
Okay.
Tony rocks the bass, I play guitar, drums, and we just throw it down like Husker Du style.
Oh, that's awesome. So the strings are going to be missing in the live.
We won't have the strings, we can do samples of some stuff. Peter has a sampler, and one of the things that's in the video, you can see he's got like these pads, like he can hit do some of the electronic stuff from that. But more than anything, it's a little more raw live,
Yeah.
We won't.
I like that. Yeah, I do like that's one reason why I like going to shows, is to see and hear a more raw version of what's on the album. So, I did hear a really interesting story in an old interview you had done, and I would love to hear you tell the story about you going into a hotel and sitting down next to a bunch of old English guys to find out who they were. So, what happened there?
we were in Salt Lake City. We stayed at this swanky hotel, and we had just played the Urban Lounge, which is a venue in Salt Lake City. And we were leaving the next morning after the gig from the hotel, and there were tour buses everywhere, lots of old British dudes sitting around. And I remember I was like walking past this group of guys, and I heard some guy go, "Hey, look, you're on the cover of Bass Player magazine." And I was like, and then we were all just kind of talking, and we're like, some huge band is here. I mean, whoever it is, like, their bass player's on the cover of Bass Player magazine. It's like something big, and they have like 20 tour buses, and so we were about to check out. I was sitting shotgun front seat, and here's the weird part. So on the dashboard, there was like The Who had just put out a new album called Endless Wire, and that album was sitting on the dashboard. It was the record that was like, or the CD that was in the CD player.
Right.
And we were about to leave. We had checked out, and I'm the guy in the band that everybody would be like, you know, like, oh, Ryan will talk to anybody. So like, let's just make Ryan go talk. So we were going to leave, and everybody's like, you know, we can't leave here not knowing who this band was, you know, because they were just sitting in the lobby, and we just walked right by them, and like, they're right there. Let's just go ask them. So I said, all right, I'm going to go ask these guys who they are. So I walk into the lobby, and they were just sitting down, and I just, you know, took a chair right next to them, and they were super nice. Like they weren't like, who are you? Get away from us. Like they started talking to me, and they were like, well, you know, they said, I asked them if they were musicians, and like, oh yeah, we're musicians. And they said, you look like a musician too. I'm like, yeah, we were here. You know, we just played. I said, we played the Urban Lounge, and I'm like, where'd you guys play? And they're like, well, we played the Enorma Dome or whatever, you know. And then I just looked at him, and I was like, who are you guys? And they just like, everybody just stopped and like looked at me like, and they go, why, we're the Who? Like, and it was like watching, it was like being in a dream, you know, like, or like if you were, maybe it was like this, if you were sleepwalking and then you just like open up to reality. Like I was looking at their faces, like Pete Townsend sitting right there. I'm like, oh, Townsend, you know, like, oh, you know, it was Pino Palladino, the bass player at the time. Yeah, so he was the cover of Bass Player magazine. He was standing right there. They were all sitting right there, and I think it was like Pete Townsend's brother, maybe, you know, who might have been playing guitar or something, but they were all just standing right there, and they were surrounded by all these other guys, and I just walked into their inner circle and started talking to them. They were super nice. Like they were very welcoming and totally cool.
That is so awesome. That's the kind of story I love getting with this podcast. I love that stuff. Where can people pick up the album? How can they order it or pre-order it? Or?
It's going on, I don't know when people are going to hear this podcast, but it goes on pre-sale. And there are several pre-sale packages. You get a bunch of free stuff. You can upgrade and get like bonus things with it. But so from Pravda Records, the label that's putting it out, from their website, you can get pre-sales right away. You know, people can pre-save it on Spotify. I think you can pre-order it on Apple Music or iTunes and whatnot. But it's coming out on vinyl and CD, and it'll be out record stores that still actually sell those things. You know,
the few that are left.
So if you have a local record store, you might be able to go there. But for most people, you know, it'll be on every other format. So you can go to Pravda Records is the place to go. I think you can get on Amazon and everywhere, but going straight to the label is I think the way to go.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
Whenever possible.
Right.
Is there a social media presence where people can follow you guys and
totally,
you know, hopefully, you know, shows will happen again at some point and they can watch, you know, get tour dates and stuff?
Totally. Yeah. We got a Facebook. It's just Ryan and Pony. We've got a Twitter account, Ryan and Pony Music. We have a website, ryanandpony.com. What else is there? There's Instagram. Ryan and Pony on Instagram. I feel like, are we missing anything? Is that it? You can sign up to be on our email list. We have newsletters that come out where you get but yeah, even without shows, like we send out, we've done some exclusive singles that we just put out for free only to people on Facebook. So
that's awesome.
So if you follow us on Facebook or like us on Facebook, there's stuff just exclusively for that. So,
that is so cool.
And Instagram. So so regardless of whether there are shows, we'll be, providing some entertainment for everybody on the social media platforms.
And it's welcome. God, this day and age, man, we need it.
Right.
So I've kept you guys about an hour at this point. Thank you so much for spending your evening.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been my pleasure. I've enjoyed the dogs, the cats, the conversation. It's been a blast. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.